Perfect. We are live. It is great when technology works. I am Jennifer Bleam, Cybersecurity Sherpa, and I am joined by Jason Rorie. He is the founder of Msp Overwatch. We're going to chat today a little bit about what happened in 2020, take a look at what is coming in 2021, both for some future casting around security, around compliance. And then we're also going to talk about the SolarWinds and what that means for small businesses. So, Jason, we have a packed agenda, and I really appreciate you being on today. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, so I'm going to jump right into SolarWinds. That's the big thing that everybody's talking about right now. So we've got this big vulnerability, opened up a back door. It was in existence since I believe I read March. Is that what you're hearing as well?
It is.
So how, well, let's back up. Explain it in layman's terms. What exactly is going on with this? And that's number one. And then number two, how do MSPs talk about this to their clients and to their prospects?
Yeah, I mean, just in layman's terms, I mean, this was a, vulnerability that could potentially allow, access to, all the different clients who were running the Orion platform, which, luckily for SMBs and the MSP community, that's more of an enterprise product. But really what it means for the MSPs is the fact that it's just another example of, no one is hack proof. Nothing is bulletproof, no matter if it's a large technology company like SolarWinds, and if there's vulnerabilities there's vulnerabilities anywhere. So I think it's really a good talking point for the MSPs to continue to educate the SMB market on, look, no one is immune to hack attempts or vulnerabilities. So it's really imperative that you just continue to educate and make those SMBs realize that they could easily be a target as well, and they are. And just continue to fight the fight and work on changing that broken mindset that most SMBs out there have.
So obviously this is a technology tool, and those listening and you and I understand that this is not a tool that was used by most MSPs, but to the small business owner, oh, it's technology, and they might see, network monitoring. And so in their world, it's very much analogous to what we're telling them they need, which starts to beg the question, how do MSPs dance that line between, hey, I want to put tools, I want to put agents, I want to put things on your network, Mr. Client, but then the clients may be concerned that could open up their network to a vulnerability. Is it a conversation around layered security, or what? How do we approach that?
Yeah, I mean, it's, when incidents like this happen, it doesn't make it easy for us to continue to try to sell products and put tools on the network, really looking at trying to do defense in depth and layering your mitigation strategies. And so it is tough, when they, small business owner hears that, oh, these IT tools got hacked into, and, so no, you're going to not put that on, my network, which then kind of ties the hands of the MSP, because, we can't do a lot, without these tools. So it's just a matter of, back to the education, building that trust, building the rapport with that client, so they, kind of understand that we use secure tools, we configure them in a secure way, and then show proof. There's different ways to document and show evidence of the security controls that you implement and how secure they are, by using, strong password policies, multi-factor authentication, encryption, et cetera. So it's just building that relationship and having that trust and really, doing right by the client and using secure tools, and make sure that you're configuring them, properly, by, working with the vendors and the partners that you're using. If you're an MSP that partners with a lot of MSSPs, they're there to help you to make sure that their tools and solutions are configured based on, best practices. So they're, tightened up the way they should be.
So obviously there were quite a few breaches and vulnerabilities happening in 2020. We had a pandemic happening. It was a crazy year that none of us could have predicted. But mm-hmm. One of the things we did not see was this shadow that's been looming over the industry for a while, which is regulation or some type of a framework put in place for MSPs. And that was supposedly coming earlier in the year, and perhaps it got slowed down because of Corona. Thank you for that. It has impacted a lot. So what are you hearing, and what do you think is coming in 2021 specific to putting regulations and things in place for the MSP community?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's still going to happen. I think it's just a matter of time. Yeah, NIST was working on some framework for MSPs, right before actually 2020 started. So I don't know if it was an issue in their, kind of project office, or if it was part of the pandemic that kind of slowed things down. But I still think it's coming, and the more and more breaches that happen, like the SolarWinds and just other, publicly known breaches, it's the regulations will happen there. I mean, they're going to, some accreditation body is going to pick it up and say, look, this industry really needs to be regulated. And of course, we saw in 2020, one of the first kind of minor steps was, in Louisiana, where they passed the registration legislation for MSPs. And there's been, a few other laws passed in other states. And, so I think that's the beginning. Whether regulations on the MSP industry as a whole will happen in 2021, we'll just have to wait to see. But I think it's wise for all MSPs out there to kind of start to prepare, work against a framework, and maybe start documenting, writing some policies, because as we all know, working with clients that face industry regulations, a lot of it's policy driven to be compliant, to have that documentation in place, and have the technical and physical controls that satisfy the policy requirements, and of course, proof of testing to ensure that all the controls that have been implemented actually work, and they do what they're supposed to do. So, yeah, I mean, who knows when it's coming, but it's better to get ahead of it now than wait and then try to play catch up.
And it's a complex animal. I mean, it's not like I don't know anything about compliance today, but I'll learn it all by tomorrow so that I can bid on a big project, right? There's a lot of complexity to it.
There is, yeah, depending on the type of compliance that you're going after. They all have different rules. They all have different expectations. Some are, again, back to the documentation, some are more policy heavy than others. But no matter which one it is, whether it's HIPAA, CMMC, GLBA, ISO, any of the NIST frameworks, you don't become an expert overnight. You have to really study the framework, breaking down exactly what they're asking for, because they all use weird language, which is typical. So you just kind of have to dig deep to kind of understand exactly what that control needs to be successfully implemented. And it's an undertaking, but it's one that needs to happen.
So if the MSPs and the MSSPs that are listening foresee themselves wanting to bid on some of these compliance related jobs and projects that are going to be coming up in 2021, is a good first step for them to put their own company through it? Is that a great way to kind of dip their toe in and learn?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. That's exactly why I built MSP Overwatch, was to kind of introduce an easy to consume framework for MSPs for their own internal use. It's based on all the NIST framework, so it's nothing that was reinvented out of thin air. So it is a good way to get started. It does introduce you to a lot of the high level policies, some of the technical and physical controls that would be required to be implemented to get through compliance. And so it is a good way to get started. It's a great way to secure your internal network, and then from there you can build off of it. So if you needed to transition, say, into a CMMC, you can always compare the evidence that you supplied to get through the MSP Overwatch framework to the requirements of CMMC, and then just fill in the gaps. Because there will be gaps, obviously, because with DoD level CUI and protecting that, there's some very specific things they want to they want to see in that compliance that's not in the MSP Overwatch framework, because again, it was just built for MSPs, and since there's no regulations over MSPs, there's nothing that detailed like a CMMC. But it's a great place to start. It'll probably put you easily 60% of the way there.
Okay, so unpack a little bit the MSP Overwatch offering. Obviously, it's based on NIST. I'm getting that, but explain what it is for those people who aren't familiar.
Yeah, so it's a framework again built on the NIST 800-53, the 800-171, which is the DFARS framework, which is what's transitioning into CMMC, and the NIST CSF. So we kind of broke those three frameworks down, and present them in a custom built portal with MSP language behind them, so an MSP could easily understand what the control is asking for, what evidence will be required. Is it just a policy, or is it a policy with technical evidence, with screenshots or configurations? So that's the offering, and it was designed to help MSPs, knowing that the compliance for the MSP industry is coming. So just gives the MSP the opportunity to, further secure their own network, get the policies written, build a full InfoSec program, within their own organization. And it helps them learn, what that program building looks like from end to end. And then they can take that experience and that knowledge and go out to market and provide the same service to their clients, whether it be just helping them secure, their network. Maybe their clients aren't under regulation either, but it would make sense to build a nice InfoSec program for those clients, or take it and then build off of it for, those regulated industries, healthcare, financial, DoD, et cetera.
Well, it's interesting because NIST provides kind of a done with you checklist, if you will, but I think it's 125 pages long, and it's not clear, and it uses language that doesn't make sense to the typical MSP. It's extremely technical. And so what you've done is essentially made it it's not quite as simple as a checklist, but once you've uploaded various documents, once you've uploaded certain things, that proverbial box is checked, and then they move down to the next thing and the next thing. And so it becomes a more manageable project because you've broken it up into chunks.
Yeah, and we're here to help. And that was one of the biggest things. I didn't want to build this without having the ability to help, because that's NIST and even some vendors in the MSP space. They give a lot of great checklists with a lot of really good information, but you're there alone with that checklist. And if you don't understand something, and there's no one there to help you, it could be a good excuse not to do it. That's where we're a little bit different, is we're here to help. We'll jump in and answer questions about the controls, help write policies, even down to helping with some technical implementation if we need to. We just want to, the MSP partners that we have, they know that we're here to help them through all this, and then help them do some of this with their clients. We can continue the engagement out onto that level. But the MSPs that we talk to, that's one of the biggest things that I want them to know about MSP Overwatch is we're here, to kind of have your back and help you get through this and help you be more secure.
So what is coming for you and for MSP Overwatch in 2021?
We're just going to continue to pack value into the platform. We're going to continue to crosswalk, other frameworks into the MSP Overwatch platform. The ISO 27001 we're going through, so we're going to start crosswalking some of those controls into the platform. Just really build more value. We're trying to build some sales and marketing collateral into the platform as well. So once you go through it, there will be some collateral that you can use to kind of educate your market, your clients on what you've been through, which could definitely separate you from some of your competition. So it's just continuing to help our industry and help provide that value and just continue to grow.
Such a key piece of the sales process is having confidence. And so it seems to me that if an MSP didn't work with you and was going to bid on something that they weren't super familiar with, versus an MSP who had worked with you and was able to say that they'd done this same process for their company, and perhaps even show some of the non-confidential documentation and things like that, that confidence could very well win the sale for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've built reports and run books into the platform that you could take with you to sales meetings to kind of show some tangible evidence of how you handle security, how you go about it, how security forward you are, and say, look, we've done this within our company, and this is what we plan to do for you, and really just kind of back things up and be able to show proof that you can walk the walk, not just talk the talk.
And one thing that I love about you is while you've got this offering for the channel, you also own your own MSP. And so you're able to talk the MSP language, the vendor language, the small business language as prospects. So how has this benefited your company, your MSP company?
It's the same, kind of benefited us in the same way. And that's the reason I came up with Msp Overwatch is, owning an MSP for going on 15 years and really, having a pretty deep background in security, cybersecurity. That's really where I noticed the gap over the last few years of what MSPs do. We were guilty of it as well, really in our own house and getting that secure and secured properly. So I thought that, if I could take my understanding of the MSP business model, the time crunch, the budget crunch, and kind of marry that with my security background and my understanding of compliance and risk management and control frameworks, and present something to MSPs that is easy to consume, easy to understand. You can get through it quickly, especially, leveraging the help that we have to offer. I thought it was a really good opportunity to help the channel, and that's where we came from.
I love it. And what a year to start a business, because you're about nine or 10 months in now.
Yeah, I think, about 9 or 10 months. So we've gotten, a few MSPs have gone through it. We got a few more that are in the midst of it somewhere right now. So we're having a good time. Everybody's, becoming more secure. And, we hope that not only does that help the MSP community, but it helps all the SMBs that we're out there supporting. So, we're hopefully doing some good work.
Awesome. Let's talk about CMMC for a second, because we've kind of flirted with it a little bit. I know a deadline just happened a handful of weeks ago, and then there's another one in a couple in 2021. So for MSPs that aren't quite as familiar with CMMC, they're going to start to hear about it more depending on the companies that they're working with. But can you give us a crash course in what it is, what this most recent deadline was, and maybe some opportunities for MSPs to take advantage of the changes that are coming?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So CMMC is what's replacing DFARS. And the DFARS compliance based on the NIST 800-171 framework was been out for a few years. So any DoD contracting, companies out there that are handling, government related data, which they call CUI, really should have aligned themselves with the DFARS framework. But what they found was it wasn't really that enforced. So I don't know of anybody that ever actually went through a DFARS audit. And I think that the government finally kind of caught on to that. So they rolled out CMMC to make some changes. And I think there's going to be a lot of heavier enforcement when it comes to this framework. And of course, the November 30th deadline that just passed was really just a pre-assessment of where you stand right now when it comes to the expectations of the regulations. When, do you have all your policies in place? Do you have all the technical controls in place? And it wasn't an end all be all by any means. It was just kind of a baseline. This is where we're at based on where we need to be, and then we can put a plan together to get the rest of the work done, which is mainly around policies and procedures. But yeah, it's going to be just the new compliance regulation for DoD work and securing government data. And it's a beast of a framework. It's a lot of work. And so that means there's a lot of opportunities out there. If you're an MSP and you're in a market where there is a lot of government contracting going on, there's a lot of good opportunity. So it'd be something that, I would suggest kind of getting familiar with, and, you might could, shoot for some of those opportunities. If you needed to partner with an MSSP that is more familiar with it and, can kind of help, with some of the areas that your MSP may not be that strong in, that's what I would suggest, because it's going to be a big year for that compliance.
Yes. Well, and I love your advice to maybe partner with someone, because since it is such a beast. I know my phone's been ringing for the last couple of weeks with companies saying, hey, I've got this opportunity to bid on, this CMMC thing. How do I get up to speed? And I'm like, well, when is the bid due? And they're like, oh, like a week. And I'm like, man, like you need to find someone to partner with, because you can't. I mean, that's like trying to become an expert in HIPAA or brain surgery or something in a week. It's just not. It's complex. It's beefy. It's a very different language and world than where most of the MSPs and MSSPs are used to living in. So a week is not enough lead time to become an expert and then put in a reasonable bid. So
No, not at all.
great. All right. Well, what else do you, if you were going to future cast, what you think is going to come in 2021, either in the channel or with coronavirus, what do you think is going to come?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just going to be another year of good opportunity to continue to educate, the SMB market. I think a lot of people are going to remain working from home, so we'll still be fighting that battle of keeping clients secure as they're distributed out. I think it's going to be a big year for zero trust as people continue to push for that, which makes sense with everybody working from home now, and your kind of perimeter security is going away slowly in this kind of model. So it's gonna be a big year for education, just staying on top of it, making sure that you're securing your tools, you're doing everything you need to do as an MSP, knowing that we're becoming more and more of a target. It's not going to slow down anytime soon. So just follow best practices, make sure you're secure along with securing your clients, continue to educate them on the things that they need to do to make sure that their network is secure as possible. So, that does lead into a lot of opportunities, and there's a lot of really good vendors in the channel when it comes to, building your security suite and putting everything together to make sure you have the different layers of defense on your client's network along with your own. So probably not a whole lot more than this year. I know this year was crazy, as we talked about, with the hoops that everyone had to jump through when the pandemic started. So it's just going to be a matter of continuing to maintain that and staying secure and staying in front of your clients and keeping them educated.
Awesome. Okay, good look at the future. I appreciate it. All right. So Jason, if someone wanted to reach out to you, learn more about MSP Overwatch, or get some assistance or support with maybe a CMMC bid, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
You can go to mspoverwatch.com, reach out through the website. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'd love to, connect with anybody there. My email address is just jrorie@mspoverwatch.com. So just any way you can reach out. I'd love to have conversations. I'm a part of your Facebook group, so you can find me in there as well. And just, I look forward to connecting with anybody that would like to learn some more.
Fantastic. Great work this year. I give you huge kudos for starting a business in the midst of a pandemic. Not that you could have seen that coming, but and you have survived and thrived in spite of it, or perhaps maybe a bit of because of it. Who knows? But so glad you're here. Love the service that you're providing to the MSPs, and always love seeing something that's been developed from the ground up. And great things ahead for you, no doubt. So thank you so much for your time.
You're very welcome. Thank you again for having me. It was a pleasure.
Absolutely. Have a great day.
You too.